If you're thinking about trying a new render engine in 2026 and you've heard of D5 Render, but you're not sure why it's so amazing, well, this webinar is for you because I actually go straight into the engine and I talk about all my favorite features, especially how they gracefully integrate AI into the typical workflows. They're really good at understanding the things that are really boring to do and they just automate it with AI. I think it's fantastic. So this webinar is all about what makes it special, what makes it different from everything else, and why you should be using it in 2026. So if you have any questions about what I talk about, leave a comment below and I'll get back to you. Enjoy the webinar. So we're calling this 60-minute ArchViz money model. And this is all about building better scenes in less time with D5's AI Edge. And this is all to preface, there's basically only a handful of big players in the real-time rendering world. Think about it. We've got Chaos, so that's our V-Ray, Corona, Enscape, Vantage, Envision guys. They've been around forever. Then we have our Epic players. We've got Twinmotion and Unreal Engine. You know, Twinmotion originally based off of Unreal Engine technology, and same thing with D5. And then we have Lumion, right? So there's really not that many people out there. There's, you know, a bunch of tools, but it really comes down to like 4 or 5 companies. So it's very different from the landscape of AI where every single day there's like a new model or a new platform. So it's interesting to see the difference already of like how real time is versus AI. But anyways, this is all to say D5, in my opinion, and like literally my day job is all about doing R&D in Viz and AI to see what's the latest and greatest, because as one of the leading firms, we need to make sure we're on the cutting edge. D5 kind of checked all those boxes for us because it implements AI, and not in like a gimmicky sense, like, oh, it'll do all the designing for you, because that's the other issue I have with AI. We're architects. We don't want the design to go away. That's the fun part. We want the boring stuff to go away, like, oh, making materials and like tweaking settings, because most of the people on this call, right? You guys are architects or interior designers or engineers. You guys aren't ArchViz artists. Some of you are, but factor in like ArchViz is architecture, right? So a lot of us like don't deal with this on a daily basis. We're not specialists in all these like settings and creating normal maps and everything. So what would happen is, you know, we were using Enscape a lot. You know, you hop into these files and like people don't know what normal maps are or roughness maps, and like everything looks kind of flat and plasticky, and they don't understand why it looks bad or like how come sometimes it looks good. So D5 was kind of like, all right, well, let's just simplify everything for you. So that's what I want to talk about. I want to hop into D5 as well. A lot of this is going to be like in engine, just to show you guys what it's like working in it and like why we use it, because we deal with super large projects and it's one of the very few softwares that handles it and does AI in a respectful way. So that's kind of like my little rant there. If you ever have questions, just drop it in the chat. I've got it up on my screen here, so I'll do my best to answer things. I also don't like just like talking at you. So just, you know, drop a comment in there. That way I can talk with you guys. You know, this is all of us trying to figure it out. You know, that's why I started doing all this. But anywho, the reality is software is not the problem. It's our speed. And unfortunately it is kind of tied to our software. But basically, if you think of at the end of the day, when it comes to making money, you want to be able to do more in less time. That was actually like the whole promise of AI, right? And if you go back to like the industrial age, it was the same idea. I know a lot of people compare it to the industrial age, but I think this is like much worse and like a bigger scale, because we're not making new jobs. We're actually like taking jobs away. But that's a webinar for another day. But the idea is, you know, if we're slow with our delivery, especially in the world of architecture, there's a lot of long nights. I think one of the scariest things that I've like seen in the world of doing competitions and, you know, kind of going into, you know, helping architects on a daily basis is like how much work goes into these projects. And my goal with, you know, teaching AI and ArchViz was so people can work 40-hour weeks. I know that's the standard, but architects, I mean, unfortunately, they're working 60 to 80-hour weeks, and that's like across the board. It's a very demanding profession. So I hope this stuff I show you guys today actually helps limit that, because that's actually been my goal for a couple of years now. And then as a designer, we don't want to, you know, iterate slowly. And here is the frustrating part of how architecture works right now. You know, I'll pretend like we're at a small architecture shop. You typically have a principal. They tend to be older, let's say past 50. They were in the golden age of architecture where you have to draw everything. So they'll draw like some sketch and they'll be like, hey, junior designer, I want you to stay here all night, 3D model it and render it so we could see if this design is good. I'll review it and then the client will review it and then there will definitely be feedback and comments because you never get it one shot and then you rinse and repeat. So we're talking about, you know, 10 to 16 hours for like a design option, and then you have to generate multiple ones, and then you come back with a feedback cycle. That's really, really bad. And so if you can't iterate in the world of design, it often leads to mediocre designs. If you think about like back in architecture school, we spent so much time building, our models, our physical models, and like tweaking them and exploring different avenues. Same thing with our renderings. We need to explore options. Like I think it goes hand in hand with architecture. It's very rare the first option you design and come up with is the solution. It's usually you have to go through a couple of revisions. So I think having this flexibility and rapidness is very, very important to architecture. And then obviously we've got AI. AI is everywhere. And it doesn't matter if you're a small firm or a large firm or an ultra gigantic corporate firm. AI is everywhere. This is one of those things, I hear all the time. People are like, it's just a phase, it's just hype, it's gonna go away. I don't see how any of this goes away because it is rooted now in text and image. It's basically on two forefronts, and it's making everyone's lives easier to some degree when used correctly. So like big air quotes there, when used correctly, because there is a lot of slop and curation that's required. But generally speaking, if you know what you're doing, it actually saves you some time. That's the whole point, And AI kind of goes hand in hand with automation, although they're different things. The idea is automate the boring parts, and that's been like my grand vision of like how AI can help. So if we don't adopt, we fall behind. That is the sad reality. It's like going from hand drafting to going on computers and CAD and everything. There are definitely a good chunk of years where people are like, hey, I don't want to do this. Computers are just a fad. I mean, people used to say the internet was just a fad, right? So it's important, whether you like it or not, like this is something you're just aware of, at least where it can kind of plug in. And this is kind of where I'll talk about where D5 does it kind of gracefully. So anyways, for those that don't know me, my name is Andy Cristoforo. I'm a registered architect and XR AI specialist. I've been in this realm for over 15 years. I'm a professor. I work at KPF as the AI and Viz manager. It's all those efforts come through me. And so like my goal has been like, how do I teach 600 people what's out there so we can implement it on our projects, right? I'm also a D5 certified instructor, meaning when you learn from me, you're learning, the greatest way to work possibly. And I present at conferences all the time. I do these webinars all the time, always talking about, what's going on in the industry, whether it's like ArchViz related or AI related. This is the kind of stuff I try to cover. So what we'll talk about why D5 render, why it's awesome. We'll talk about AI powered workflows and then your future and how I can help you. So just to talk about briefly, what is AI in our context in case, you don't really know about all this stuff, basically falls into two different buckets. We've got AI image making, and then we've got text editing. When we think of image making, we're talking about concept generation, style exploration, virtual staging, mood boards, anything to make images. So that could be text to image, it could be 3D model to image. That's that bucket. Then there's the AI text editing bucket. So think of this like your ChatGPTs, your Geminis, your Claudes, basically taking text, improving it, or coming up from scratch. And this is really, really powerful on the, I'd say like the admin side of architecture. And this is really powerful on the ArchViz side. Because ArchViz is so deeply rooted in architecture, you're going to hear me kind of talk about the two as the same because like more and more designers are becoming ArchViz specialists. It almost feels like the role of an ArchViz artist is shrinking, but then the scope and responsibilities of a designer is expanding, which is crazy because there's so much stuff we have to juggle anyways. So for those unfamiliar with the workflow types that we have out here, oops, well, that's definitely broken. Well, I'll just put them all up here. We start off with text to text. So this is basically like, hey, this is my prompt. So the prompt is like a sentence. It's your initial query or question to the AI model where it will generate something for you. It'll either expand it, improve it, do it for you. That's text to text. So whenever someone says that, that's what they're talking about. Then when they say text to image, think of this as taking an image or taking a piece of text, describing it to turn into an image. So this is like your mid journeys, your nano bananas, your stable diffusions, like all that is text to image. Then there's this thing called image to image. This also goes hand in hand with like style transfer, like, hey, I like the style of this image. Can you make it look like that? It's basically an edit. You could either add people, remove people, do design options. And then there's image and text to video. So basically, I've got this image. Can you turn it into a video? Basically, animate it for myself. And then upscaling. Now, for those that don't know, AI output is often quite low. It's usually like 1 megapixel, sometimes 2K, where, in terms of like architecture and our presentations, usually we're either printing something, goes on like a board, or it's going into an email, a PDF. And usually it's around 2 to 4K is like the resolution we like. So we use these upscalers to basically improve the resolution, right? So D5 is interesting because although it's a real-time render engine, they know all this stuff exists and they've been trying to figure out, well, how do we basically hop on to some of these and integrate it into our own workflow. So instead of you going to just like ChatGPT or Gemini, this is actually in your 3D software. And this is something none of the other real-time render engines are doing. And if they are doing, they're playing a little bit of catch up. D5 definitely was the first to kind of figure out a lot of this stuff. So for them, they actually have a modified version of this where it's like text to image. So say you need like a prop, like a chair. You type in the chair you need, it generates it in 3D. Then say you need a style transfer of your rendering because let's say it's early stage concept, you don't want to show your client something realistic. Well, they've got an AI post processor that takes that rendering, that photorealistic rendering, and makes it look sketchy. Then they've got the ability to create animations and video, and they have a built-in upscaler. So if the quality is, needs to be bumped up, you can definitely do that as well. So I definitely got to fix that. So D5, real-time render engine, meaning anything you do is in real time. So you drop a light bulb, you see it instantly. So for those coming from like Vera or Corona, I saw some of those users, that is happening in real time. There's no sampling or anything. It's like high fidelity all the time. Same thing with your material editing. And I'm going to be going through all this in D5 so you see it. But there's basically this idea that you can generate an AI scene, right? And then you can build it up in D5, and then you can actually use AI to modify that scene as well. And I'll talk about some of the fun features there because it's pretty crazy. And the biggest thing, which I love about D5, is they know when to inject the AI stuff. And it's all about reducing the tedium. So I'll show some features that they have, which is really incredible. So D5 kind of fits across, if we think of like early stage, concept SD, to DD, all the different things that are related. There's, concept generation. So like text to image stuff, or like, hey, I just want to work out some ideas. You have that. They have this great thing in the beta right now called D5 Lite. And this is like their own AI generator, right? Which is really, really cool. Kind of like their own Midjourney, which is really cool. Then they have all these AI design agents. Basically, you can create your own vegetation from a prompt like, hey, I'm working in Dubai, what is vegetation that is drought resistant? And it will do that for you, generate an Excel spreadsheet so you can send that to a landscape designer to verify everything. Then there's obviously the visualization side, grabbing material samples, right? And then turning that into seamless materials or upscaling them. That's all in there. And then post-production, basically improving your rendering. So we're going to hop into all this, kind of talked about this. So I'm going to hop right into my demo. So my project, this is a massive project I've been working on for quite some time, and I'm going to kind of break it down. For any of those people curious about like performance and everything, I've got like 85 million faces here, and I'm running at a smooth, 70 frames per second. Zoom probably won't do it justice, but in terms of how this project comes together, or any project in D5, is I'm going to show you kind of from scratch. So I'm going to show you, this is basically everything I was showing you before is like all the pretty stuff. At its core, any architectural scene is going to come down to your imports. So I've got SketchUp and Rhino files that live in here, right? So you can transfer data directly through a direct import or through a live sync plugin. So if you've ever used like Enscape or Lumion, you know, hey, I move my camera around in SketchUp or Revit or Lumion or Rhino, and it moves it in D5. If I edit something in Rhino, I see it instantly here. So the cool thing is, think of this as a warehouse. You're not locked to one file. And this is one of the issues with Enscape, right? You basically need to bring everything into one mega file, and that's where you can work for Enscape to have all that data. These are all different models. They're all coming from different places. So you can see this is one SketchUp model, this is another, and they're all different links, right? So it doesn't matter what software it came from, it can all live here. So you've got that. That's basically like the architectural import side. Then, of course, we can start layering in more information. This is like the environmental details. So like adding water and terrain, right? So they have a full-blown terrain system, which is great for anyone who's working like on sites that require this. You can sculpt, you can paint, very similar to like something like Lumion. So if you're used to that, you'll feel right at home. And you can even host vegetation directly on it. So they're called brushes, but these are the different plants I have in here. And I can easily add plants, reduce plants. I can brush more, brush less. All that is available here. So that's a really nice feature, and it's very optimized. Like, if one of the reasons I had to leave Lumion is anytime I had something that looked anything like this, it would just flash like a red poor performance symbol in the top right corner saying, oh, you're getting 2 frames per second because you dropped down like 20 trees. So here, because it's built on game engine tech, it's able to handle realistic lighting and vegetation and all that in real time. So like the waves move, the trees sway in the wind, and you can basically just keep painting till whenever you're satisfied. And then because of the terrain editor, you can bring in these awesome like height maps and brushes where, look at this, it's actually moving everything dynamically. So it's all built into the terrain system. It's pretty crazy. So we got that part. Then we've got the idea of, adding more an entourage. This could be, people, it could be more trees and everything. You can see here that we're just like placing things to fill in the scene. And then obviously you can add in people and boats and animated assets. That's something that, something Enscape, doesn't do well, where everything's static. Here, it's like the boats will rock, the people will move, people will walk around a path, cars will move. There's a lot in here, which is really great. And my favorite part, you may notice over here, is this thing called the scene list. And this is basically the starting point of where AI can be really important. So a scene list is not just like a dummy camera position holder. And you can see the boat moving here. It actually saves environment settings and visibility settings, meaning I can turn on and off layers and save them. And I can save environment settings to a scene. So if I want, I'm just gonna make a new scene, and watch this. I can go over to environment settings, and I'm just gonna play with some settings. Let's just pretend like I do that, and I make it really, really dark. If I save this, it'll save that and it'll animate it. So now I can actually go between 2 different options. So if I want to do a day-night test, I could do that. If I want to see what the project looks like with golden hour or nighttime, I could easily do these mock-ups. I can save them. I can even put them in a group, and a group would let me organize my files a little bit nicer. So we've got that there. But my favorite part, and this is where AI is really useful, and basically how I learned in architecture how people work, is they'll find a pretty picture and they'll be like, hey, just do this. Can you make it look like this? So right over here, there's this thing called AI atmosphere match. And this is where I hope you begin to see like why I think D5 is incredible, because it understands like the typical workflow. Like I was saying, like people will be like, hey, make it look like this. So you can grab a reference photo from their library here, or you can just find one online. It could be literally any picture. You go on Pinterest, you generate something in Midjourney. It doesn't matter. You could just grab it and put it in here, and it'll analyze that image and apply the same color correction settings as well as atmospherics. So that's huge because if you're a designer, you don't understand what, all these settings do, like skylight and background and rotation and HDRI and sun intensity and radius. Like nobody really gets that. So Joshua was saying, you guys can see my screen, right? Okay, okay. All right, good. You scared me for a second. I was like, has nobody been seeing my screen? Okay, great. All right, awesome. So let's go back here. So if I want, I can grab an image of my own, or I can just grab, a default image. So this one looks kind of cloudy, as you can see. I'm gonna hit generate, and watch what's gonna happen. It's gonna start generating a Shirai from this image, as well as start to bring in some of the fog. So you see how it's working? So it's gonna be, in steps. So it's gonna start adding more and more detail until it's about right. And so this is great because since we're humans and we're designers, it's easier for us to just find something we like and just tell D5, hey, can you like match this so I don't have to do it manually? So there we go. It picked up some of the coloring, it picked up the fog in the background, and here basically I can play with the strength of it if I want it to be more intense or less intense. So this thing is huge. AI Atmosphere is great. I usually will just keep making duplicate versions of my scene and then test it out. So now I can hit add scene and I can call this, the cloudy scene. But let's say I don't want to use, this function. They actually have this great thing called D5 Studio. And for anyone who works at a large firm or anyone that's more than two people, there's this idea of a team space where you can save all your presets. So your environment settings, you could say, hey, this is like the firm standard for a sunny day or a cloudy day. You could save that here. You can save your models and materials to your library that gets shared with anyone in a team space. Okay, so that's really nice. So what I could do is just double click this and it will apply that to the scene. So this is huge because again, if you don't know what you're doing, you can just go here and find something that looks really nice. If it resonates with you, you can go in and apply it. So they've taken care of like the traditional preset workflow as well as the AI front. So there's a lot of great options in here. I always recommend just like going through it. It's just like pages and pages of content and see what makes the most sense. So this looks great. I actually really like this one. Well, I'm going to save this one. We'll call this midday. So that's one side of it. Now let's talk a little bit about materials because this is another huge one. So I'm going to go somewhere. Yeah, this is a massive project we've been working on. Say I go over here. All right, so I've got this really cool view, but I also have these houses that got this like super plain material. So D5, there's a couple ways you could get materials here. You could use their awesome, amazing material library where there's literally like 2,000 materials, right? Any type of thing you need is here. And the reality is like 90% of my materials come from here. It's very rare that I have to find something that's so unique that I can't find like a good starting point in the library. And then Ben's asking, can you discuss variation? Oh yeah, yeah, we could definitely discuss that. That's a great point. So let's say, for example, there's something I actually can't grab an image of or I don't know, a material of. There's two ways of doing this. You could use this thing called AI Material Snap, and this will look at a photo, right? So you can literally upload a photo if you want, and you select the material you want. So let's say I want this wood, right? So I can add to my selection, and then what I can do is tell it to generate a material based off of that. So again, this is how architects work. We find a picture or the homeowner or client's like, hey, I like this style. Can you just do this, right? You're going to hear that a lot. So this, again, uses the natural way we work, uses AI in a healthy way because this process sucks doing it manually. You have to find something that looks similar or you do a bunch of photoshopping and that art of photoshopping images into textures, I feel like is so niche now that not a lot of people even know how to do that. So this is going to think for a little bit and it's going to apply it. So while this loads, here we go. This is the AI generated version, and then it gives you a recommendation from the asset library itself, which is great. And all of these are, seamless materials. So I could just go here and I could just apply it to my project. So it's as simple as that. And the cool thing about the material editor in general is if I go in here, one thing that I always found really annoying in something like Enscape is just like the way things get mapped. So if you ever have issues mapping or getting something seamless or realistic, there's a bunch of settings here. So triplanar basically takes all the faces, despite their scale or individual UV, and it evens it out. So it's a nice world scale. So that's everywhere. Then there's this idea of a UV randomizer. And this isn't great for like linear elements, but if you have anything that's like tiling, this will break it up and make it randomized. Then we've got lovely round corner, which bevels all our edges, so you don't need to model that. Again, they're doing all these things that are super useful on the workflow front, right? Then they have this other tool called AI generated texture maps. So if you upload a texture of a material, so let me see if I have anything. Probably not. Um, Probably not right off my hard drive, but you can actually upscale it and make it seamless and then generate all these maps all with this button. So its job is literally to generate um, texture maps. Since I'm using something from their library, that's not going to work. But the idea is you could grab something online and just plug that in, and then you'd get normal and roughness map. So again, you don't have to make these maps because again, nobody likes making these maps unless you're like an ArchViz artist. So that's huge. So they've got this, they've got the material snap, they've got AI atmosphere, and that's not even like all the settings. They've got this guy right here is text to 3D. So like if you want like a chair or to generate, piece of decor as they're showing here, it will go from prompt to 3D. It's just crazy. So like, let's say I want this little dragon thing, right? I could go and generate that. I could generate, these pieces of sculpture, some rocks. It's just amazing. So, and that's all from text. So very, very clever there. Now, to answer Ben's question, because in the world of architecture, we deal with a lot of options. So something I know they're working on is like a proper variation manager, but the best trick we found is you can actually just create a layer. So let's say I'm going to add a layer. Well, we can call this option one. Whoops. That's option one. And then we can call this option two. And you can actually just plop things on. So let's say I've got this. Let's just say it's a design layout. I'll put this on option two. And I can turn this off. And then this is like the layer for option one or like the view. So you can actually save this to your scenes as well. So now that I have this here, I can create a new scene and we'll call this option one. And if I sync that and then create another one called option two, and then just do the vice versa, turn this off, turn that on, and then sync it, I can easily switch between the two. And you can do this for like materials. You could do this for, layouts like this, different geometry. So very, very simple way to do that. We're working on a way to kind of package that all up so it's a little bit easier, similar to like the Lumion option editor. That one's really nice. So you've got that. Then the big, I'd say, difference that I've seen with D5 and some of the other tools is the addition of some really nice features called Cesium. So typically, when you need context, you need to like go out and find like a 3D model. Well, now they basically have this plugin called Cesium that brings in Google 3D tiles. So if you see something 3D in Google Maps, you can hit add. Oh, I think I actually have it in here, and it will import that for you. So check this out. I think I'll start from scratch just so you can see that. And I'm going to hit add. Let's say my site's right here. And now it's going to stream in the world. So now looks like it's loading. Come on, Cesium. Oh, put this on default layer. Great. And now I've got my Google Maps. And now I just got to find, it might be under the water. Here we go. Perfect. So it's literally loading in the world. Let me turn this off and raise this. And this is great because as architects, you know how annoying it is to get 3D data of your context. So let me fly over here. So this is streaming in the whole world. And I know it looks super, but that's because Yeah, so Jay, the Cesium, this is actually coming to individual plans in the next big D5 release. So right now we're on 2.11. The next one, I'm not gonna spoil it, is coming. Um, I can't give any specific dates, but it's coming and it will be for individual plans. So right now it's streaming everything in because I was flying around, things are loading in, but you're getting the textured Google Maps cities, which is great because we're kind of all sick of the OpenStreetMap like boxes, which you could also do here. This is going to give you the textured version. So this is huge because now when you need aerials and backplates, you could just load this in, drop your project in, and now you have this. So let me see if I could turn this off so you could see everything. Ocean. And now let me bring this up. I gotta find my gizmo somewhere. But look at this. It goes on and on and on. And then just for like the sake of performance and everything, it's not loading everything. It's just loading the details that are in camera. So I've got all this terrain. Trying to find my gizmo. There we go. All right. Location. Let's say. There we go. There we go. Perfect. This is what I want to show you guys. There we go. So it brought in water, it brought in the mini cities, the mini houses, big houses, skyscrapers. This is basically all of Miami, right? So very, very useful because from far away, you can render this out and then you can use their upscaler, which is what I'm going to get to make it look nicer. But you can see these are like all the typical things architects deal with that they've figured out. And that's what I love about all this. So now I'm going to talk about the AI post-processor, and then we'll talk about wrapping this up. But check this out. I've got let me go here. I had this rendering. Maximize this. This is the rendering. I picked a very low HDRI just to illustrate this point, but you can use their built-in enhancer and style transfer functionality to improve it. So in one click, I was able to go from that scene to something like this, and look, it made the clouds look beautiful and fluffy. I mean, look at the vegetation. Look at the boat, right? And you can control how much it affects the image or not. Then here's another view. Again, look at the difference of the quality of the clouds. So clouds get enhanced, vegetation gets enhanced. Pretty much it's like a free enhancement. And in my opinion, because the argument comes up, oh, should I be using like D5 versus like V-Ray or Corona? I mean, really comes down to like your expertise and time. But I think if D5 can get you like 80% of the way there, and then you use these enhancers that aren't really like changing much about the overall design, you're getting like an extra 10, 15% boost in quality. I mean, like, look at this before and after. So with a really, really rough image, you could do that. And yeah, it will enhance characters. You can even specify what particular things you enhance. Like, check this out. In painting, you've got smart retouch where it touch everything. It's got better sky, better water, vegetation, and characters. So if you render a person, you can choose to enhance it as well. And it'll basically go from like the plasticky 3D look to realistic. So that's the photorealistic side, but then there's the actual sketchy side. And I actually love these like styles and everything. And all you're doing is just, you could choose from these different style settings right here, whether you want like a marker drawing or pencil sketch or watercolor, or if you want winter, autumn, you name it. So then you've got like pen and everything. And now Michelle's asking, what are the best settings so it doesn't change? That's a great question. So what you can do, there's different like levels of like flavor adjustment you could do here. This guy right here is the typical AI enhancer. This is like the vanilla flavor of enhancement. You can tell it how much to enhance. So you could lessen this, and then you could tell it, which they added recently, if you just want the textures enhanced. So if you don't want geometry changed much, you could keep this low and boost the texture so you get some nice boosts on the side. So like here you can see I'm getting some nice texture right there. See that? Boop, boop, boop. So it'll do things like that. Then with the style enhancer or transfer, you can upload a reference image to basically take that style, and then you can play with the weights here as well. So your structure, your literal structure, you can increase this to 1 so it matches it as much as possible. So it's really, really respectful. I find it to be much more respectful than something like Magnific, which gets a little crazy. I know they just added the precision model, but they added that just because of this issue. because we're architects. We don't want our stuff changing. I'll give you some other examples. Um, this was Yeah, here we go. This is a good example of a kitchen, right? So I could easily switch it to stylize, and it does a good job preserving, if you look right here, the actual structure. And it's the same thing for the realistic side. But we love this kind of stuff because think about it. You're working with a client. It's like your first design meeting. You can't go into a meeting with all this figured out because again, design is all about iterations, right? So it's nice to have these kind of like concept like images early on. So you could just talk about like the form. You don't even need to talk about texture. You could remove that from the equation and you don't need to spend like 10 hours drawing something like this. So there's a lot it could do. I'm trying to find another one. Yeah, here's a good example. This is just for you, Michelle, about the structure. But if I were to show you a transfer here, you can see the building. The building in this case, I didn't even touch. I just said, give me the pretty flowers, right? In this example. Then if I want to do something a little bit more intense, let me just double check this one. Yeah, this is just for the sky. So this is what I'm saying. Like you can tell it to target elements outside of the architecture or actually target the architecture. So this, was to convert it to a scale looking model. This was just to improve it overall. But you could see it does a good job with the forms and everything. I had the texture weight really low because I wanted to enhance it. But you can see like the people begin to look better. They don't look as plasticky. You could even go to different shifts if you want to just do like a nighttime rendering. And then of course you've got your stylized and then your enhanced images as well. So this is what I mean. Like the car, for example, looks much better. The people look much better. But this is all because I'm telling it what I want to focus on. So they give you the flexibility. And that's like the really nice thing about D5 and the AI functionality. They like figure out the things that matter to architects the most. And like that's the choices you have to make, which AI tools. So they've got like a bunch of other amazing functionality, and I should probably just like keep doing these webinars to talk about D5 functions, but nobody else is like tackling the AI stuff on the same level as this. I didn't even talk about the AI agent, but this is if you're working with like landscape designers and you want to create like a scatter preset, basically, hey, just fill this whole area with these trees and vegetation. You could choose a preset or just tell it what you want. Like this is an example before when I said, oh, I'm working in Dubai. I need drought resistant plants. It'll do that. So so yeah, there's a lot here. I could talk about, we should make these webinars like 4 hours long and I could just talk about all the features. But Peter asks, do you use other platforms for rendering or exclusively now? So basically, if we're talking traditional ArchViz, 100% D5. Personally, I've had an interesting story. I started out in the world of ArchViz with Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine, incredible piece of software. I highly recommend it if you want to do like interactive tours because I was doing VR for a while. That's incredible platform. So then I realized I can't like really make a business off of Unreal Engine because it's too slow to like do all the stuff we need. And then I got into Lumion. And this is, we were saying like 2015, 2016, used Lumion for a bunch of years, but it was good. It was great, like speed wise. But then I felt ever since 2019, 2020, it was like falling behind. I wasn't a big fan of the updates. And then I played with Twinmotion for a little bit, which I thought was cool. And then D5 comes along and it's just like, wow, this is better than everything. And my firm KPF, we used to be 100% Enscape, and now we're transitioning out to D5 because it basically does everything that Enscape does, but at such a higher level. And like for us, and there's some functionality I didn't even talk about, but if there's anyone who's familiar with Revit and multiple people working at the same time with work sets and work session, you could do the same thing. You can actually break up your scope of the model and say, hey, one person gets this file, another person gets another file, and you can sync to central. Nobody else does that. And like again, we have a lot of people on our teams and it's great. Everyone can contribute to the same model. So that's huge. So so yeah. And then no, sorry, I'm catching up on the chat. I tried to enhance a D5 scene with AI and it took a long time. The long time, this is all server related. So could have just been a busy day. I'd recommend just like trying it again just to see what's up there. But it's generally very, very quick. Like if I were to grab any of these scenes and watch because I'm doing this live, obviously it's not going to work. But if I grab any of these settings, just to put my money where my mouth is, let's go with spring, and I hit AI style transfer, and I do something like this. Generally it's probably less than a minute. So while that's waiting, did I try VR in D5? VR in D5 is actually the most insane VR experience ever. Fidelity wise, it's like ray traced in real time VR. It's insane. You need crazy hardware, but amazing. In terms of like laptops and everything, yeah, I mean the better if you have the budget for a 5090 laptop, Jesus Martinez, yeah, I mean go for it. I mean right now I'm using a pretty crazy graphics card, and like you save so much time and money when you have the right hardware. But you could see that this is going, Tim, 17%. Um, so Wes is saying, yeah, are there any AI starting to do construction drawings? Yeah, that's one of my biggest issues with AI right now is like we're using AI, or not like us particularly, are like tackling all the creative things. Like think about it. AI is like getting rid of creative writing, illustration, photography, and like it's not going for the boring stuff like CDs. And I think the reason is, and I think I'm allowed to say this, but my my thought on this is when it comes to training sets on CDs, all that stuff is like really confidential and proprietary. So someone like Autodesk doesn't have, billions of drawings for it to be trained on, if that makes sense. And I think that's actually the limitation. They just don't have the set for that. So that's my theory. What kind of VR headset? Oh, that's a good question. You would want something. I mean, the Quest 3 looks really nice. I have a headset from Vario. They make really beautiful high definition resolution panels. They're really good, but yeah, it really comes down to your budget. How crazy hardware for VR? I mean, the best you got because it is so intensive, especially on this type of scene. It is. So Tim, I hope that answered your question about the speed. It really depends on, the time of day. That wasn't that bad. Yeah, so Scott, your question about the VR stuff, it's where is it? I think I actually have to enable it, but it's a button VR beta. So when I click that, I don't have the headset on or connected, but you basically click that and you go right into it. The only difference is you don't have a .exe executable, so you can't like share it or send it. You have to open up D5 and then run it. That's one of the only things there. So that was the demo. I know we're like approaching time. Yeah, but definitely keep dropping questions in here. I want to run through my final spiel here, but you know, if all this sounded interesting and like you want to learn D5, you like my teaching style and all that, I do run this amazing academy called the ArchViz Academy, and we're actually one of the, or probably the only official D5 training platform. We've got modules and modules of content on the basics and the fundamentals of ArchViz. So basically, like what makes a beautiful PBR material, how to use D5, advanced functionality with D5, the photoshopping part, the animation part, and then we even talk about AI in ArchViz as well. I've also got business components in there, so you can learn how to turn this into a freelance business as well as make your firm some more money in terms of charging and everything. So that's out there. I think Damien from my team will be dropping links in there. But incredible platform. You could see, some of my students' work. I know somebody was asking for like still images. The quality with like D5 and someone who can really like handle it, really, really impressive. Love my students' work. It just blows my mind because you have people that are new to D5, like a lot of you on this call, and then you go through the curriculum and you're like, hey, Andy, check out this amazing rendering, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that in just like a couple months of time. So what we get, or what you get in this academy, we're talking about 30 hours of content. I'm adding content on a monthly basis, so keeping up with all the D5 updates, AI updates. I've got this amazing GPT coach, and the idea is you upload an image, it'll give you feedback, and it's based on my brain. I also give you feedback too, but it's nice when it's the middle of the night and you just want feedback. I created that tool for you. Got plenty of 3D models and presets, and we also run workshops and office hours. So just to show you a little bit about what's inside, it's on a platform called Circle. You get all this functionality, a discussion board, feedback board, the course, and you can see there's just hours and hours of content. It's all organized. This is like the benefit of using something structured versus YouTube. YouTube is not really conducive to doing structured trainings. It's all in one spot. So if you ever have a question on like a video, you just comment right there. I get right back to you. And then we have this awesome feedback area where people drop their renderings and the community jumps in and answers questions. It's really, really awesome place. So super proud of it. We're almost coming up on our 1 year anniversary in March. It's been awesome. And now with like AI and everything, we're going to pad that a little bit more with the AI stuff. Probably even do like something just dedicated for AI because there's so much similarities, but if you're not into the world of like ArchViz, it's not as relevant, but really awesome place to be. So for, as a thank you for those that attended today, if you do sign up, we're going to give you all these exclusive benefits, which really crazy because the value of it is just like more than the program. But we always run these boot camps, so you'll get a free ticket to that, all included in the value of the academy. I'll be giving you all the premium AI guides that I've been writing recently. So we're talking about, the Nano Banana stuff, your prompt guides, ChatGPT for AEC, how to use that, and then an ArchViz Studio blueprint if you plan on, freelancing and everything. Then I have a 3D scene shop. You can download my scenes, basically take them apart. We're giving you a $50 discount value on the scenes there. Then I've got all these different amazing checklists and toolkits for D5. So like when you start a project or like when you're about to render, what should you look at, what you should check off, and then how to even fix your renderings. Like you brought your renderings to a good point, but you're not happy with them. That's our render toolkit that we've got there as well. So you can see we've got an insane amount of content all packed into this, and that's for you guys coming to this webinar. Big thank you for coming out on a Friday, but it's just an incredible place to be. And if you sign up, you can book a 30-minute call with me. We can go over anything. Problems with D5, your renderings. You want to get started with D5 or you want to talk about AI? Well, that's whatever you want. That time is yours. We could schedule that for sure. So we're talking about over $800 worth of value all in this if you sign up. Damien's got the links in there. It's an insane amount of content. It's a great academy. Super proud of what we've done. And then, if you want to hang around and just see like what people have been saying, these are from our students, literally snapshots. You could see like the quality of the renderings is great. I mean, the things people are saying, in terms of like the time we spend, the feedback we give, and like how confident our students feel. I love it. I'm so impressed with the results and just how everyone feels about the community. So if you have any questions about the academy, drop it here. And I'll hang around and answer it. But thank you everybody for coming here and checking out D5 and AI. But this is all about speeding up the workflows, whether it's ArchViz or AI. Like that's what we're covering here. So you can see some more rendering, some great feedback. Joining this community has been super beneficial to me. I mean, I have such a good relationship with D5. They've known me for so many years, and I make sure like all the content we put out is proper and respects like their tool and showing the students what you need to know to do a great job, whether you're an architect or ArchViz artist, right? So all it comes down to this. We offer a lifetime plan, basically no subscription. You buy once, you have it forever. Or if you want something a little bit easier to manage, is a monthly plan. So we're dropping both of these down, heavy discounts, for the holiday seasons. We're making it nice and affordable, especially as we enter 2026. It's good to know a new skill going into that new year. So you've got this. Again, this is no subscription. You buy once, you have it forever. You don't need to worry about a recurring payment like the monthly plan. Some people like this, some people like that. It's the same thing. You get the same perks. We offer feedback. You get the course, you get all the updates, you get everything. So that's all here. And then a bunch of questions that do come up Yeah, so Ben and Amina, I hope that answers. So Michelle, if oh, that's actually a great question. Yeah, for anyone who is a student or enterprise, let's say like a firm, reach out to me because students, as an educator, will give you guys a great discount on top of this discount. And then anyone at a firm, we can do bulk seats as well. But it's one seat per user. And the idea behind that is like, Michelle, for example, since you're asking, if you have feedback, I want to talk to you. Like this is Michelle's rendering. Let's talk about Michelle's goals and how you improve. Okay. So we do offer enterprise seats. So we could definitely resolve that. You can shoot me an email right here. I'll give you my own personal email because that's what I do for you guys. You can just email me here. And if for some reason you don't want to email me directly, you can email our info email. Academy. I'll send that over. So you can literally email me with any questions. It doesn't have to be related to enrollment as well. But if you're a student, reach out. If you're an enterprise, reach out. If you have any questions, life questions with AI D5, reach out. I want to talk to you. So, and then Jeremy, once you log in, or once you sign up, like we know, and it'll automatically like give you the stuff in the academy. That's basically how it works. It ties it to Damien on our backend team basically ties the code with the stuff you get, which is really sweet. Um, but yeah, so you can do this at any time. Like the content with the academy, you don't need to like do it 9 to 5. It's available. They're recordings. It's all pre-recorded, and you always get the content updates. But yeah, you've got so many different options. We cover, D5. We talk a little bit about Photoshop, creating packages in InDesign to send to your client, Premiere, and everything. But if you have any more questions, I'm going to hang around, answer your question. You guys are giving me great questions. I love this. So I will answer that. Um, yeah, Joshua has asked, have I worked with the team function? This one's the reason we chose D5. The team function is like so multiple people can work together and we can share our models and assets and presets. So yes, it's pretty cool. But yeah, thank you everyone who's joined today. I'll leave this up here, but yeah, this is probably the steepest discount we've done all year. I think even better than our Black Friday. So this is being used in the movie industry. So Wes, I think the movie industry, I don't know if you ever watched The Mandalorian, but they Unreal Engine or Epic developed the tech, the LED screens that go on the set, so you could change like the background and it actually affects the lighting on the characters and everything. So I think for them, Unreal Engine or film, Unreal Engine's like the better move just because you're going to have more flexibility with your outputs. So like if you need to design an LED screen, yeah, you could do that. If you need to like figure out how the camera rigs move, like it's built for that as well. So um yeah, Amina, oh, sorry, I've been Zoom by default has it on everyone in sorry, on panelists. Sorry. So that's my email and the regular email. My apologies. Have you tried uploading a landscape plan and having the AI? So Ben, that's a good question. It won't read it like that. I can actually just show you how the scatter works. So yeah, I'll show you two features of the scatter. So I'm gonna grab a simple plane. You can do this on terrain, but I'm just doing this for the sake of it sticking out very easily. So if I have a plane here, let me scale this up. I'll move this up. Do, 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 do. And another thing, if you do want to sign up for D5 Pro, because I'm a certified instructor, you actually get a 5% code. Reach out to me and I can give you that as well. So that helps cheapen it up. But anyways, you've got two ways of handling scatter. You can grab a scatter group from here, and scatter is their way of saying like do a lot of different plans at once. So if I want this combo, I don't know, let's grab this guy. I have it saved already. I can click this and just place it and hit create and it'll think about it. I can also make my own as well and like choose the species and everything. And then the AI one can do this for you as well. So Ben, I'll show you both if you have the time. But yeah, I mean D5 is crazy. It's just like this is another reason I've basically gone with them is like every update just like blows my mind. Like what they do in a quarter is what some companies do in years. So look at how dense this is. So it just added, what is that, 6 billion faces, and I'm still getting 30 frames per second. Like, look at this. Look, I can literally like go down into here and it'll take a second to load, but like it's crazy. So this is like the typical scatter. If you want to use the assets, all this is editable. So if I click, let me look for scatter over here. I think it's this guy. You see these are the parameters of like the probability of them spawning, how big they should be, and all that. So you could do that, or you can go over here to the AI agent, this guy, and let's just say I click this. I can swap out these details. I'm just going to use the default just for the sake of time. So it's going to look at this, analyze it, and create a scatter group. So basically what I just showed you that you can place on a plane, and then you can even export it out to Excel, which is great because we give this to our landscape designer and then or architect, and they could be like, hey, okay, I verify the species because you use the species. This looks good. Let's order, 500 of this, 300 of that, whatever. That's all there. So there you go. Look at this. So this is the schedule. So like imagine doing this manually. Like it fulfills the water requirement, right? And then it fulfills the light requirement and everything. So once this looks good, I can hit auto scatter. So it takes all those species and then I can hit left click and then create. So again, this is like what, I don't know, 20, 30 species. So it's going to put all that in a scatter group on this plane, and then I can choose to export it. So it's insane. And like that's just one cool feature. They have other vegetation tools. You could use the brush or the scatter or the pathing tool, and it's nuts. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, D5 is nuts. Yeah, so frankly, the with scatter, there are a couple things that I would watch out for. It's like how big the area is, and then there's a nice setting under. I don't want to touch it until it loads, where you can change the cull distance, and that's basically when things load in and out of memory. That helps a lot, but scatter can get a little crazy if you're not cautious with the density setting, because you guys saw it. I went from 85 million to 6 billion faces on one plane. Be a little nuts. Yeah. All right, awesome. But yeah, this is great questions, everybody. All right, awesome. Yeah, no, D5 is extremely impressive. And like they basically came out of nowhere and just like the past couple of years they've been just dominating the real time rendering scene. I think the US is going to catch up soon and realize like, oh wow, everyone's like ahead of us. Um, I feel like in Europe and Asia, they get it. They're like, oh, D5 is amazing. US, I think because Chaos has had their like hands on the industry for so long, there's like some hesitation to jump ship. But if you look at like I don't know, just like a sheet or like two columns, the Enscape column and D5, and like you go through all the features of Enscape and then all the features of D5, it's just like, why would I ever go with Enscape? Like that's the crazy thing that I just don't understand why people haven't just been like, oh yeah, D5 is it. It's crazy. I mean, quality right out of the gate is better. All this AI functionality is built in. They update like crazy. Their support team is amazing. They listen to their users, like insane. Yeah, we switched from Lumion about 5 months. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, totally agree with inertia. Yeah. Yeah, Lumion, it's like I love Lumion, but I was just like so frustrated with the performance and just like the cost of it. Like for us to use it at our firm would just be insane. Like the pricing of D5 is like extremely competitive compared to the other rendering engines. Except like Twinmotion, they're kind of like cheating because it can be free. But that aside, but yeah, the pricing of Lumion's crazy. The performance, the ray tracing implementation got completely botched and it like ruined. Martin, do you think? No. So here's my theory. If D5 began to get expensive, I have a really good relationship with them. Like I talk to their leadership team all the time, but like if that ever happened, I'd be like, you guys gotta calm it down. But realistically, like they are, a global company and it's just the numbers don't make sense overseas. When you talk about like US money, or the US dollar elsewhere. It just it does not translate well. Even when we talk about doing business outside of the States, it's just really really difficult to have it make sense. But they understand the user base. I mean, the reality is the majority of like ArchViz users, I'll say like artists, like they do come from third world countries. Like that's just the reality of it. That's where the data is. There's no way someone's going to spend 80, 100, $200 a month on a subscription. But you can see the auto scatters coming in. Well, Ralph, I think there's still good starting points with the what's it called? At least the parameters of what the plant is. At least if somebody like can figure out if they can figure out the prompt of like the location, the sun requirements and water requirements, like I think that already puts them in a much better spot than typical spots. But if landscape architects want to generate all that, that's totally fine. I'm just saying, like, as an architect who doesn't know about all these species, this is like a good middle ground. So I could like be at least somewhat intelligent. And then if the species is wrong, I'd be like, hey, I like the look of this. Can you recommend something? Like again, we don't want to, get rid of their jobs completely. It's just like I think it helps inform the design conversation. Yeah. So wish I could get sharp, transparent backgrounds around the imagery or insert a background photo for some jobs. May not be possible in D5 due to being real sharp, transparent backgrounds around the imagery. So there are these things like you can import your own HDR. Oh wow, 30. Yeah, that's a lot. You can import your own, what's it called? HDRIs, and you can also do your own like backdrops. They do have like starting assets for backdrops and everything. So you can swap this out with your own version of that, and then you can go and upscale it, and it's going to be pretty close to what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Ralph, I'll say like if you've got like very good comments about how they should handle it, I mean, reach out. I mean, you could send it to me, I'll forward it to them. I mean, that's the beauty of working with this team. Like, I'll give you a great example. These assets right here, I'll go to model and then character. These guys like it came from my firm like saying like, hey, we need more people for hospitality, and like within 2 weeks we had 200 assets. Like they are so good about that stuff. So if you understand that, like, and you can put that like in a nice, I don't know, structured paragraph of like this is what the plan should do. Like they want this feedback. They're like really eager. Like they get this stuff. So definitely shoot that over to me or support. Um, we wish they would put non-scientific names in there. Yeah, I totally agree. It would be nice if there was like a nickname slot. I totally agree because what what I tend to do, and this is a little tip, I'll favorite the ones I like, and then you can go and filter by favorite. Because yeah, I don't know what a Punica granatum is. Um, yeah, so Thomas, I really like Cesium for exterior renderings, but you can't place any. Yeah. Huh. So Thomas, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, for us, we deal with a lot of urban projects. So if we had that kind of terrain, you can import a height map. I don't know if that helps you or if you even have one, but you can import, I think it's under manage. Yeah, you can import a height map. I don't know if that'll give you precision, but yeah, you're right. The cesium or geometry or link, whatever you want to call it, is not technically like D5 geometry. So that's, yeah, you're going to have that limitation of it not accepting everything, but you can still path on it. Like you can still grab, your path and put stuff on it. It's just scatter. Yeah, you're right. It's not going to pick it up because it doesn't distinguish different like material layers. And Franklin Cesium is coming for into the new version of D5, which is I'll just say in the near future. Not like I won't give deadline, but it's coming. Oh, Jeremy, that's a good one. Filtering by like the silhouette or the shape. Yeah. To add to that, I would actually like it. So you see this scale guy? Like I'd like it if I could choose like small or medium as well. I like your idea with the silhouette as well. But that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, these are great questions. Yeah, we had a great bunch today. But yeah, this is great. If you guys have any other questions about D5, I'm around. You can also email me. I'll drop it in the chat again in case you didn't get that. Any moves for custom interior? Ooh, this is one we've actually requested. This should be coming in the future, just because I understand like the nature of how it was set up, like their parallax. Like this can come. I'm not worried about this. I mean, we bring this up all the time, but these parallaxes, for any architects out there that don't know what this is great when you've got a shell of a building and you don't have the time to actually fill it with interiors. This fakes interiors. This is another thing that D5 was like first on. You see how it's a plane, but when I move my camera, it mimics depth. So it looks like I've got a full-fledged interior there, but it's not. It's all a simple plane, and that's very, very cheap in terms of like being performant. Support for CAD, I mean, depends on, we're talking what, like 2D. You can import, you've got FBX, D5A, SketchUp, 3DM, ABC, OBJ. So what could you get CAD out of? You could probably go into FBX maybe. Um, yeah, or OBJ. Yeah, but the custom parallax would be nice because we've got like very specific interiors and then we could like make our own. So that would be pretty cool. Yeah, look at that. I mean, it's amazing. And then you could change the light intensity as well, the temperature if it's like residential or commercial, cool or warm. No, they don't. So Jay, they don't have like direct support. It's not like a dedicated plugin like the SketchUp one or the Rhino one. If you ever have questions on those though, check this out. D5 render plugins. Oh, actually, no, I lied. You can go right here. This is easier. So right under workflow, this guy sync. These are the ones that are like 100% supported really well that have like the live sync component, meaning if I model something in one program, I see it immediately in D5, or if I orbit around, I see it there. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what that is. Yeah. Yep, yeah, Blender is here. Yeah, so here's a good example of the sync. So we've got that, and yeah, you can see it's got the live sync. So you move Blender around, it moves D5 around. You model something in Blender, it appears in D5. So yeah, Blender is cool, but yeah, no direct AutoCAD. Um, yeah, I mean, Jay, are you doing 3D in CAD, or are you just talking about bringing in the 2D plans? But I guess why would you bring the 2D plans in? Yeah, I'm curious there. You do 3D in CAD. Yeah, so I would try exporting out as OBJ. Um, yeah, or if you're familiar with SketchUp, importing it there, modifying it further, and then using the SketchUp plugin. But yeah, no direct link to CAD. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you everybody. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, we'll definitely do more of these like what is D5 webinars because I think it's good. I think it's important to get the word out because I don't know the current players they're good, but they're not amazing, and it's frustrating that like D5 has to be like the underdog that comes out of nowhere and is like innovating on all these AI fronts, which I feel like you would always look towards like the bigger companies like Autodesk or like Adobe, these big guys with billions of dollars and like them leading the way with the new frontier. But it's never the case, and it's good to have like a disruptor, I think.